Hello and welcome to the show. This is The Entrepreneur. My name is Paul K. Mwaura. Different entrepreneurs have different reasons as to why they get into business. Join me as I talk to my first guest tonight and we know why he got into business. Introduce yourself to us. Let us know who you are and what you do.
My name is Peter Gitau, and I am currently selling land across Kenya. I run a business called Peters Plots, and I put my name on the business because I wanted people to be confident that if they're dealing with Peters Plots, then they're dealing with me, because it's an industry that needs to have a lot of confidence put back into it.
Peter, some people come out from high school, from college, from universities and go looking out for jobs or go straight into entrepreneurship. Explain to us or take us through to the route that you took to where you are right now.
I was employed myself. I worked first as a teacher for many years, about 10 years. And then after that I went to New Zealand, where I worked for a bank. I got trained and I joined a bank called ANZ, which was based in Wellington. And it's when I was in New Zealand that I realized that there's a lot of potential in Kenya. I think sometimes you have to step out to see what's in. So I saw there's a lot of potential. Kenya is still a very young country. So I decided, I think the best thing to do for me, the only way I can offer something back to my country, is to get in there and start something and actually drive it. So that's one of the things that led me into self-employment.
How far back did you get to start your company and what do you get to offer?
I started this business about 4 years ago. And about 3 years ago I made it formal, meaning registering the name and getting offices and getting staff. But while I was in New Zealand, I was coming to Kenya and buying land. So at that point I had known how it's done.
And what made you settle into selling plots eventually?
I got into the real estate industry actually after something happened in my family. My mom bought a piece of land in Ruiru. It's the only piece of land my mom ever bought. Probably the only thing she ever owned in this world. She's since passed on. But after she lost the piece of land, I was terribly frustrated. And I thought there must be very many Kenyans who've lost land like the way my mom did. So I thought the best thing to do is for me to understand why it happened.
Many Kenyans out there have a variety of people they can go to, individuals, companies, organizations, to look for land and even buy land. We'd like to know, why would someone come to Peter?
The reason why I think a lot of people would come to me, and probably over many other organizations, is because they want to know whom they're dealing with. Now, we've had cases where people have gone to an organization, or they thought that was the name of the organization, and they bought land from them, but they actually didn't know whom they paid, because they may have paid somebody they thought was the secretary or was an agent or was an employee of the company. But when things go wrong, they can't actually place the responsibility on anyone. So I thought, let people come to me and let me be the face that they deal with, and let me be the person that they deal with. If something goes wrong, let them blame me. So I'll take full responsibility.
We'd like Peter to explain to us the pros and cons of doing the business that he is into.
Government bureaucracy, it's very frustrating. Land registries across Kenya are still manual. So everything, it's a very physical job. When you're doing searches in the land offices, they still don't have computers. They haven't computerized how title deeds are issued. They haven't computerized the maps. So one of the biggest challenges is the time it takes to process documents. Another problem, of course, is the roads. You want to sell a piece of land, but clients go to see the land, the road is terrible, and you're trying to convince them that one day these roads will be improved. So that can be a big disadvantage. Of course, other problems are like right now, areas around Nairobi that people may want to go into, like Kitengela, Kiserian, Isinya, Kagundo Road. These areas are relatively dry. So you can't do much agriculture if you don't have enough water. So you may have to sink a borehole. So selling land in these areas is quite a challenging task. But I think also the biggest challenge is regaining trust from the Kenyans, because for a long time, especially maybe 10 years back or 5 to 10 years back, there was a lot of fraud. People lost a lot of money. So regaining that trust and telling people, look, we can clean up this industry. There's a lot of people who are skeptical because they lost a lot of money. Some of them are repaying loans on land they never got. So that's a huge challenge. But when it comes to advantages of the business, of course, first of all, it's fulfilling. When you drive across and you see a house on a piece of land that you helped the person buy, and you know that family is settled there because you helped them buy the land, that gives you a good feeling. Another thing is that you feel you're doing a good job by making people believe that a system that was so bad, so corrupt, has been cleaned up in a small way. You know, I can't clean up the entire system in Kenya, but at least I can play a role.
Peter, you've been there and done that. You know, you have quite a wealth of experience, I would say. Kenya is a growing economy. What would you say is important of entrepreneurship to our young people, and especially the ones who are jobless?
Majority of Kenyans and majority of young people are not employed. So entrepreneurship comes in because it helps them gain the skills which later they themselves can become employees. And a country like Kenya needs many small businesses because there's many people who are not employed, and there are many people who will not get employed because there aren't enough opportunities. But all countries, not just Kenya, all countries, including some of the strongest economies, rely on the small businesses. Now, small businesses run on people having the entrepreneurship skills, where one person is running a small business and employing 2 people. Now, if you multiply that across the country and have maybe 4 or 5 million doing that, in the end, we'll have the entire population engaged in a very meaningful way. So I think entrepreneurship is the way to go.
Where are you looking at taking your company in the next few years?
I see myself in the next few years serving thousands and thousands of Kenyans. We see ourselves perhaps being able to process 300, 400 plots maybe in a month or in two months. We're hoping that in the next few months we will be leading Kenyans into settling in areas that ordinarily they wouldn't settle. I'm thinking, why shouldn't I maybe help Kenyans buy land in maybe south of Kajiado so that people can go settle there, and the government can clearly see that people are moving away from the cities and be forced to construct roads and railway lines to get these people, you know, back to the city if they want to, if they're working here. So I see myself as discovering new horizons for people.
He's been doing this for a while, so we'd like to know what gives him that motivation, what gives him the kick every morning.
Feeling that no other, especially women, no other woman will lose their land like my mother did. My mother saved all her life to buy that piece of land and lost it. Helping a Kenyan settle down and seeing that you don't lose your money, that is great. Also, making people understand that not everyone is out to rip you off, and not everyone is out to con you.
Peter, I believe most Kenyans, if not all, would like to get into ownership of land. But every day you wake up, in the dailies, in the news, you find that and hear that land is escalating. Now, what would you explain is the lead to this escalation of prices, and what should people like you and the government do to help the Kenyans?
Yes, it is a really sad situation in Kenya at the moment, and it is something that the government and everyone needs to sit down and look into. The biggest concern and the biggest cause for what you're seeing now is something called the Physical Planning Act. The problem is the Physical Planning Act is no longer enforced. And what that means is that farmland is quickly being turned into commercial land. So you find people coming and buying farmland, building malls, building apartment blocks, office blocks. Now what that happens is it causes a ripple effect. The next farmer next to that office block or next to the mall will not sell his land cheaper, any cheaper than the farmer who sold the land on which the shopping mall stands. The problem now comes in that a lot of Kenyans cannot afford those millions of shillings that are paid for. So in the end, you find farming land becomes very expensive, and therefore the average Kenyan will be locked out of living in a certain area because that area has become commercial. Now, the physical planning, the zoning laws need to be enforced so that you can live a few hundred meters from the boundaries of Nairobi, but your land should not cost more than 1 million or 800,000 shillings. Why? Because the Planning Act, the zoning laws say that land is farmland.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Peter.
very much.
We appreciate your time.
You're most welcome.
All right. That is end of part 1. I hope you got to learn something from our conversation with Peter. Continue tweeting, engage us on our social media pages that are on your screen right now. We are taking a short commercial break, and when we return, we have another guest for you.